Only an act of true love can thaw a frozen heart, says the troll to Anna in the movie Frozen. Oh, I promise I'm not going to sing Let It Go. But only an act of true love can thaw a frozen heart. Hi, I'm Jeff Miller, the pastor at the Belton First United Methodist Church in Belton, Texas. Thank you for joining us on these devotionals. We're currently doing devotionals on the three greats in the Bible, those frosted flakes of the Bible. The Great Commission, go and make disciples of everyone. The Great Commandment, love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. And then the Great Requirement, to do justice, embrace faithful love, and walk humbly with God. And we're talking about the Great Commandment, love. Loving God and loving our neighbor as ourselves. And I want to give you a passage, a very familiar passage about love. And it's that passage that puts rubber on the bones and it's where the flesh hits the road. Just kidding. Just kidding. It's where the rubber meets the road and it gives flesh to the bones. And it's in 1 Corinthians chapter 13. Great passage about love. I'm sure that these words will be familiar to you. They're usually read at a wedding. And it just simply says that love is patient, love is kind. Love isn't jealous, it doesn't brag, it isn't arrogant. It isn't rude, it doesn't seek its own advantage. It isn't irritable, it doesn't keep a record of complaints. It isn't happy with injustice, but is happy with the truth. Love puts up with all things, trusts all things, hopes for all things, and endures all things. And it's a beautiful passage about love and how we're to live out the love. I've always kind of wondered about weddings and couples selecting this passage. Because it really sets a high standard. I always thought it might be better something from the Old Testament law. Reading at the wedding, like the bride and groom are in front here, and I can say to them and say to the man, read this passage out of the Old Testament law that says, and when you make a great error in judgment, and I can look at the groom and say, and you will. And when you are reminded of that great error in judgment, I can look at the bride and say, and she will. But everyone wants this passage. And it's a very high standard for love. But it really gives us how we're to express love. What love consists of, what it's made of, kind of the recipe for love. And God is love. So let me read this passage a couple more times, but in a little different way. God is patient. God is kind. God isn't jealous. God doesn't brag. God isn't arrogant. God doesn't seek its own advantage. God is not irritable. God does not keep a record of complaints. God isn't happy with injustice, but is happy with the truth. God puts up with all things, trusts all things, hopes for all things, and endures all things. The same love that God has for us is the kind of love works to express to one another, to our neighbors. So now I want you to take that passage, 1 Corinthians 13, starting at verse 4 through verse 7. 1 Corinthians 4. 1 Corinthians chapter 13, 4 through 7. And just put am I in front of that instead of love. Am I patient? Am I kind? Am I jealous? Do I brag? Am I arrogant? Am I rude? Do I seek my own advantage? Am I irritable? Am I happy with injustice? Or am I happy with the truth? Do I put up with all things? Do I trust all things? Hope for all things? And do I endure all things? Well, I don't know about you, but I'm not able to answer yes to all of those. That irritable one kind of gets me. But I think if I work on it and ask myself, am I loving, and work on each one. Just, am I patient? Am I kind? Am I seeking my own advantage? And look at the answers. Look at the answers and work on expressing love and go back to this passage. Perhaps each day, and look and see if you're loving the way God loves. As we continue to try to live that commandment of loving God with all our heart, soul, mind, and strength, and loving our neighbor as ourselves. Know that you are loved. You are loved by God. And God will always love you no matter what. So let's continue to strive to love each other. God bless you.